People that become wealthy understand how money works.
What is the difference between people who figure out how to make themselves wealthy and those that don't? If we put all objective advantages aside, rich parents, inherited lots of money, all these kinds of things, what is like the fundamental difference that you've seen from the many, many hundreds of thousands of people that you've worked with and taught and that have consumed your content? What is the fundamental?
There's one difference, one key difference. People that become wealthy understand how money works, and everybody else does not. And I'll tell you where I came to this conclusion. I checked all the boxes. I studied hard in school. I went through high school. I went to college. I spent 1 year in graduate school. And then I went through law school. But I never once learned a thing about money. I never once learned to think about building wealth. I never once learned to think about investing. I never once learned to think about passive income. But if you look at the wealthiest people in the world, they don't get there by working a job and getting a raise. They don't get there by working to climb the corporate ladder. They get there because they understand how money works, and they understand how to win in the economic system. And the crazy thing about that is we're all taught to trust the system. My parents are immigrants from a state in India called Punjab. And like many other traditional Indian immigrants, they wanted me to become successful. Now in my house, that definition of success was very simple. They gave me two options.
I can guess.
Well, option number one was, Jaspreet, you can be a doctor.
Yeah.
Option two was, Jaspreet, you can be a failure.
Okay.
And they said you get to pick which one. And this is me when I'm like 1 year old. That since the day I could start talking, my parents told everybody, not just people around us, they called my family in India, my family all around the country, that Jaspreet is going to grow up and become a doctor because he's going to become successful. Now, I had nothing against that because I wanted to become successful too. I saw how hard my parents worked. My dad, if he got a Saturday and a Sunday off, was considered a long weekend. I mean, my parents bust their butt, and I wanted to become successful so I could give back to them. And they told me that if I wanted to become successful, the way I do that is by becoming a doctor. Which makes sense because when you're in school, you get those like pamphlets, those career pamphlets, and they show you the different career options you have. And anytime you look at that, the top of the list is always doctor. And so they said, Jaspreet, if you want to become successful, you have to become a doctor. And because we came to this country, you have to become successful, so you have to become a doctor. Now, I didn't think anything wrong with it because I liked the idea of becoming successful, so I went down that path. Now, along the way, I realized I didn't want to be a doctor. I told my parents that I'm not going to be a doctor. My mom almost had a heart attack. My dad couldn't believe it. And so my dad essentially told me that, Jaspreet, if you want to keep any pride in the family, you have to at least become an attorney. So I said, okay. I went to law school part-time, worked on my business full-time. Now, today I am a licensed attorney, but I've never worked a day as an attorney. And the reason why I've never worked as an attorney is because it's just not worth my time and it's not where my passion is. And along that way, that's when I learned that we're taught, this is how you win. Go to school, study hard, get good grades, get a good job. And if you continue working down that path, you're gonna become successful. But if you look at the successful people, that's not the path that they followed. And if we take a look at the three things that have built more wealth than anything else over the last century, it's starting a business, investing in real estate, and investing in stocks. Yet, along my entire educational path, I was never taught that. We're focused on how do you get a good job, but all wealthy people are focused on is how do I grow my assets? And that's the key difference here, is wealthy people are working to own the corporate ladder. Everybody else is working to climb the corporate ladder. And then the next thing, I'm gonna go back to what you said, assuming that you don't have rich parents, because most people assume that you have to be rich in order to do this. You need millions of dollars, you need access to all this money. But that's not true. You can start now with $100, $10, but you have to get started. The problem is most of us are never taught how to do this. But unless you start doing this, you're never going to build wealth. And that's the way that you win in this economic system.